The first time that I ever really encountered contact, and namely Ron Babbitt, was when I was working at that apartment complex on 61st and Peoria. Ron used to come through, and he'd be praying for people and doing Bible studies. And in those days, we were getting high and not living a healthy life. And I actually used to peek out the window and run out the back door to stay away from Ron. And it's ironic how I not only wind up in the house that he preaches out of, running after guys just like me, running out back doors. So it's kind of funny how God's a full circle God. He'll bring you right back to it, that's for sure. My name is Randy Milam. I come from Detroit. I come from a pretty dysfunctional family. My mom and dad both ran out on our family at a very young age. From Detroit, we moved at the age of 5 years old. I'm a twin brother and triplet sisters. We moved to Phoenix, Arizona to live with my aunt. When we got there, things were great for about 5 or 6 months or so. My aunt had a boyfriend. He wound up fighting and arguing with her one night and wound up shooting her and turning the gun and and ending his own life. In and out of trouble with the law. Ran with street gangs. Been shot, been stabbed, been there and kind of done it all. My mom kind of got her life together, so they moved us back to Michigan to live with her. But I really never gave her a chance. I wound up going and reverting back to the only family that I truly ever knew was the gang life. Ran with the gang for probably another 4 or 5 years. Wound up getting myself into trouble. Was looking at going to prison. A judge showed me some grace and gave me an opportunity to join the Army. Met a woman there. We were married. We had a son. His name is Daniel. Our relationship kind of fell apart, and she moved on. So I kind of began a 22-year journey of raising my son as a single parent. Met another woman, an infidelity situation, wound up splitting us up. From there, Daniel and I moved. I wound up moving to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Got myself into a bit of trouble, spent 30 months in prison, and got myself into trouble again after I got out of prison, back to smoking marijuana. I slowly descended to using crack cocaine. I was pretty high one night, and I was sitting on my front porch. A young lady that was a really good friend of mine approached me. When she walked up, she realized how high I was, and she kind of let me have it. She said some things like, God's got big plans for you, and that she had faith in me, and that God's plan for me was a whole lot more than what I was doing. So I sat there. I was kind of broke up. A police officer pulled up, and he asked me what was going on. He asked me if I was all right. I told him that I wasn't all right, and I kind of told the truth. I told him I was high. I told him I was out on bail. I told him I wanted to turn myself in and get myself sober. So he took me to David L. Moss. There was a guy that kept coming into our pod doing jail and prison ministry. His name was Jack Ryan. He came to me many nights asking me if I wanted to go to a Bible study that he was having. We went to Bible study, and I kind of broke down. Had some tears, had some regrets, had some things I needed forgiveness for. A couple of weeks later, after doing some studying, I was baptized right there in David L. Moss. That's when my life truly changed. I gotta say, when I came up out of the water, I left the old me behind. From there, I went from selling marijuana in the pod to going cell to cell with a Bible. And I went into my first real prayer and fasting. For 3 days, I struggled with the Lord. I came clean. I talked about who I really was and what I really wanted, and from there I started a 40-day journey through the Purpose-Driven Life. told God that I was not going to work with drug addicts, alcoholics, kids with dysfunctional backgrounds, but I lost that. I lost that argument. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't really lose, I really won. There was a guy in our cell, and he kept talking about this Contact Church of Christ on the west side of Tulsa. He told me that they had a recovery house program. He told me that they worked with kids from broken homes and gang involvement and drug activity, that it was a place where they reached out to the less fortunate. And I kind of heard God say, this is where I want you to be. But on the 40th day, the very day that I finished that purpose-driven life and let me out of David L. Moss, when I got out, I went outside and there was a concrete bench, and I remember kneeling right there on that concrete bench, asking God to keep me from ever going back to that way of life. Got up and I made a phone call to the guy that was running the recovery house at the time. They didn't have any rooms. All the rooms were full. I was lost. I called a friend of mine back at that 61st and Peoria apartment complex. I asked him if I could stay with him for a couple of weeks. He told me I could have 2 weeks. The very day I had to be out, I had nowhere to go, no direction, no plan, no call. So I put my garbage bag of clothes on my back, and I walked to an AA meeting, which was probably about 3 miles away. I was a broken man. The meeting ended, and it was 10 o'clock at night. I still had nowhere to go. My phone rang, and he told me that our room had opened up. And I told him, yeah. And, I remember sitting there thinking while I was waiting for him to come and pick me up, God answers prayers. He knows where you're at. He knows what you need. And sometimes He'll let you go through it. I went to the Contact Recovery House. They were preparing for this thing Contact does every year called the Christmas store. I remember walking in, and I was introduced to a minister named Ron Babbitt. Ron laughed. He gave me a hug, and he said, "Hey, my shelves need to be straightened up a little bit. Get to work." He put me to work, and I spent a few hours straightening those shelves up, and began my ministry at Contact that very night. Doing Bible studies with Ron, running with Ron, meeting with people in living rooms, and then a big transition began in my life. I began to really find my ministry, and I'd kind of like to share that with you now. I began to work for the mother church of Contact, which is Park Plaza, as a building maintenance. Helped them begin a Celebrate Recovery program that's been going now strong for 7, almost 8 years. And in that process, began to work with guys that were transitioning out of prison. And Hope City is the name of our transition house. It's on the east side of Tulsa, and it's for guys that are transitioning from CR Inside to our CR program, and then to CR Inside Out, so that guys that are coming out of prison don't come out into the same people, places, and things that got them in trouble to begin with. So we try to plug them right into work. We try to plug them into healthy Bible studies, and we try to keep their time filled with healthy things and away from unhealthy behavior. Here in Hope City, I think the most important thing for me is before our church bought this property and we began our work here, this is the location where this community used to come and buy dope. They used to sell dope, and now we're giving hope. Currently, we have 5 guys. As they're going through their 18-month program, everybody that comes through will do a in-depth 12-step study. You know, at Contact, and Jim Roberts always says that God's got big plans for you. And he said that so many times to me in my early years of Contact that I began to buy into that. And I started believing that God really did have a purpose and a plan for me. And then it began to develop and become a part of my life. This is the very thing that I try to instill into the generations behind me. I think that it's great that he uses me at Contact. When I think of Contact, I think of love. My favorite part of a Sunday morning is walking in the Contact door and being attacked by 20 kids, all just simply wanting a hug and saying good morning. Our halls are full of kids that are screaming and hollering, and I think that that's what a healthy church looks like. I love being a part of Contact. I'll be doing this to the day I die, or until God moves me somewhere else. The craziest thing for me is that God helped me restore my life, and now I get an opportunity to help these guys start and rebuild their lives. God's got big plans for this place and each guy, and I'm just excited to be on a front row seat to seeing these lives change.